Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. What's up, guys? I'm a son of Benedict. Some way, somehow, Red Dead Redemption 2 lived up to all of the hype and somehow told a story on par with the first game, and then some. Red Dead 1 is one of my favorite games of all time, and the sequel, or prequel I guess in this case, lived up to the legacy. In fact, I was far more captivated by Arthur Morgan's story than John Marston's. Even though it might be obscure, Morgan's story should resonate with Catholics and it should remind you of a particular saint. I was a little concerned when I heard Red Dead 2 was announced because I thought Rockstar Games was making an Old West version of Grand Theft Auto. I was worried that it was going to justify the outlaws and glorify them just for the sake of glorifying them, robberies, murders, and all. I got the game knowing that the first was about Marston rejecting his outlaw past, and I held out hope that the prequel would emphasize that. For the first half of Red Dead 2, all the story missions I had to do involved robbing banks and stagecoaches. It wasn't until the halfway point that I realized the story Rockstar wanted to tell. The moment that Dutch drowns the mafia boss Angelo Bronte in cold blood. It's at this point that Morgan and some of the other gang members start to question their actions and whether Dutch, the leader, is unhinged.
Part of your philosophy books cover feeding a fella. The goddamn alligator, Dutch.
Part that covers weakness.
Morgan is not a good man. He'll be the first to tell you that. He's robbed, beaten, and killed innocent people. He's done it all in the name of an ideal that even he isn't quite sure ever existed. He thought, along with Dutch, that he was stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, Robin Hood style. Morgan thought that there was some loophole to justify his actions. After Dutch drowns Bronte, Morgan wonders if they ever had good intentions. When shipwrecked in Guarma, Dutch strangles a poor old lady who pulled a knife on him. Lady was at least 80 years old and couldn't have done anything even if she tried. After Morgan makes it back to America, he's diagnosed with tuberculosis. Considering his job, there's no way he's ever going to get enough rest to recover. Morgan's days are numbered. Morgan spends the last days of his life trying to right the wrongs he caused. Eventually, Morgan runs into Brother Dorkins in a side mission, a Franciscan monk simply trying to help the poor. Brother Dorkins says that he caught word that one of the shopkeepers in the area is holding slaves in a back room. Morgan holds the shopkeeper at gunpoint and tells him to free the slaves. You get the slaves to Brother Dorkins, who tries to pay you, but you refuse payment because you're a good person and totally wouldn't take money from a guy who took a vow of poverty. Later on, Morgan meets a nun. Morgan simply returns a stolen crucifix to her. That's all for the first encounter. Later, though, in a train station, doing an optional story mission, Morgan meets the nun again. The scene is worth playing in full.
Are you okay?
Well, never better. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm on my way down to Mexico. They're finally sending me on a mission. Brother Dorkins is very jealous. What's wrong?
I'm dying, sister.
Okay.
Yeah, I got TB. I got it. Beating a man to death for a few bucks. I've lived a bad life, sister.
We've all lived bad lives, Mr. Morgan. We all sin. But I know you.
You don't know me.
Forgive me, but that's the problem. You don't know you.
What do you mean?
I don't know, but whenever we happen to meet, you're always helping people and smiling.
I had a son. He passed away. I had a girl who loved me. I threw that away. My mama died when I was a kid. And my daddy, well, I watched him die. And it weren't soon enough.
My husband died a long time ago. Life is full of pain. But there is also love and beauty.
What am I gonna do now?
Be grateful that for the first time, you see your life clearly.
Sure.
Perhaps you could help somebody. Helping makes you really happy.
But I still don't believe in nothing.
Often, neither do I. But then I meet someone like you, and everything makes sense.
You're too smart for me, sister. I guess I'm afraid.
There is nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Morgan. Take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act.
All aboard! I shall try.
I know you will. Goodbye, goodbye, Mr. Morgan. Goodbye.
Sister?
Morgan decides that if he's going to die soon, he'll die saving the gang members who still have a future, namely John Marston and his family. Morgan finds out that Micah, a gang member who has been unhinged since the beginning, had tried to turn the gang over to the federal government. Only Marston believes Morgan, and the two of them try to escape with Marston's family. On a mountain overlooking the valley, Morgan gives Marston his stuff and makes his final stand against the federal government and Micah. With TB, Morgan was never going to win. On Arthur's gravestone, it is written, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Red Dead Redemption lives up to its name, and Morgan redeems himself. Saint Dismas was a revolutionary fighting against Roman authority. He ran with a man named Gestas and a certain notorious criminal named Barabbas. Dismas killed and robbed the Romans and was sentenced to crucifixion. When nailed on the cross, he sees a man crowned with thorns, being mocked by the Roman soldiers. Dismas didn't know the man, but he knew that he was innocent. Dismas caught a glance at the inscription above the innocent man's cross. It read, "King of the Jews." Gestas notices too, and says, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." Dismas replies, "Have you no fear of God? For you are subject to the same condemnation." And indeed, we have been condemned justly, for the sentence we received corresponds to our crimes. But this man has done nothing criminal. Then he says to the innocent man, who he now realizes is the Jesus he had heard so much about, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Like Morgan, Dismas led an outlaw's life. Very little is known about Dismas, but calling him the good thief is putting it lightly. He was a revolutionary. No one crucifies a mere thief. Like Morgan, Dismas likely defied the government in a violent manner. Dismas and Morgan weren't wrong in thinking the government was corrupt or had abused the people. It was their means that made them revolutionaries and outlaws. In the end, both saw how much they had lost sight of their true goal. Instead of making a better world, they were just creating more chaos. In the end, they chose to die honorably. Morgan died to save the good that he saw in Marston, and Dismas accepted his death because he knew he deserved it. For the inscription on Arthur's grave, which suspiciously looks like a Benedictine or Celtic cross, it might have been better to say, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Saint Benedict and Saint Scholastica, pray for us.